Commando units were formed in Russia in 1949 after World War II. Since the days of the Soviet Union, Russian commando units have been successful in many missions inside and outside the country. We know very little about it, because Russia does all their operations very secretly. We can only know the information that Russia has released about this. Let's talk about all of them in detail. Welcome back to 20th Century World. Russia's special units are Spetsnaz, GRU, Alpha Group, Vimpel. Each group's area of operation will be different. First, let's talk about the Vimpel Group. Commandos in the Vimpel Group will handle languages of at least 3 countries. Their main task is to kill the leaders and other persons of the enemy country in emergency situations. However, in emergency situations within Russia, it must ensure security, rescue Russian citizens from hostages, return any Russian citizens kidnapped abroad or in Russia to safety, and conduct lightning strikes against the enemy in a timely manner. These are the main tasks of Vimpel Group. Following the massacre of Israelis at the 1974 Munich Olympics, the KGB formed a command unit called the Alpha Group. The Russian Alpha Group is an elite counter-terrorist force formed in the final years of the Soviet Union. They work as secret intelligence and against terrorist activities in Russia. Their main mission is to eradicate terrorism from within the country. Next, talk about the Spetsnaz Special Unit. Russia's Spetsnaz force is the most powerful commando force in the world. To learn about Spetsnaz, one must first have a look at Russia's intelligence service. The GRU, or Glavnoye Razvedivatelnoye Upravlenie, is Russia's military intelligence agency. When the Soviet Union and its agency, the KGB, collapsed in 1991, Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU, survived. It is alleged that GRU is behind the Salisbury nerve attack in 2018. The Salisbury nerve attack of 2018 is the case of the poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia Skripal, who worked as a double agent for British intelligence while being a Russian military officer. There were many protests as well as accusations that the GRU was behind the incident, but there was no evidence. In this, Spetsnaz is commonly known as the Assassination Code. The training regime of this special military unit is extremely tough and unimaginably brutal. Therefore, history shows that they can overcome any strategy of the opponent in any adverse situation. Spetsnaz have proven their strength in Syria and Afghanistan. The Spetsnaz, a military unit that has no other country's weaponry or military strength, is a backbone of the Russian army. We can see many videos on social media with the name Spetsnaz and Alpha, but we don't get any information about them. Because the truth is that we cannot identify the Russian commandos. Their activities will be unrecognizable among a group of soldiers as soldiers, among policemen as policemen, as channelers among journalists, as civilians among protesters, and as bodyguards among bodyguards. A Spetsnaz commando is formed through rigorous training. Hence the operations of one Spetsnaz commandos will be very different from others. Training of commandos is step by step. The first phase of training for commandos is rappelling. Knife training as well as techniques to defend against an attack. Use light tankers, learn the use of Russian pistols, rifles and machine guns as well as foreign-made weapons and their technologies. Evacuate captives and wounded from troubled areas, learn the psychology of terrorists and assailants. Training in patrol, ambush and counter-ambush techniques. Learn wilderness and survival skills. Disarming weapons and conducting anti-terror obstacle courses. In the second phase of training, training for bodyguards, cover and evacuation drills, firearms training and counter-explosive skills. The third stage of training is Russian Navy SEAL training. Lane underwater patrol and small unit tactics. Practice underwater hand-to-hand combat, tactics and weapons disarming. Study underwater intelligence gathering techniques. Shoot special underwater weapons. Firearms training. Equipment familiarization. Dives and diving training with standard scuba equipment are part of this training. The next step is Spetsnaz's survival training. This is the most important phase for a commando because during the war the commando will also acquire the ability to survive himself if he gets lost in the jungle or is isolated in any other situation. Mainly included as part of this training: construct rafts for river crossing for transport to your destination, construct camp shelters and food preparation, hide and secure food and equipments, construct light and heavy camps for tactical purposes, train night movement and tactics, land wilderness and night survival training, find and prepare edible plans for food and psychological training for wilderness survival. Airborne training is the final stage of training for a Spetsnaz commando. In this, jump training as well as parachute jump are important. As part of a commando operation, if the commandos are unable to reach by road, they are often parachuted down by air to carry out the operations. These trainings are for executing such operations. In-depth study of the cultures of other countries, acquiring the ability to handle foreign languages are part of the training of the commandos. Lock breaking using modern systems, killing someone without even making a single sound, and the ability to fight in different temperatures are part of the training. The death rate of commandos who die during Spetsnaz training is much higher than that of commandos in other countries who die during training. Instructors inflict pain on Spets commandos in various ways during training, which is part of pain management, or the acquisition of pain tolerance. In other countries, mainly running and swimming are given to their commandos as part of training. But in Spetsnaz training, the commandos are given a lethal beating. Attack a commando with all the other commandos. They will attack in this manner until the commando loses consciousness. Each Spets commando is put through a testing regimen beyond what a human body can bear, such as crawling over barbed wire, dragging heavy tracks, lying in mud, and training under blazing fire. In case the Spetsnaz commandos fall into the hands of the enemy for any reason, all the procedures sent by the enemy countries to gather information are applied to each commando during the training. Commandos are often killed during such training. Spetsnaz has two sections. One is Vega. These commandos are experts in using nuclear weapons. The second category is Fakal. Commandos of the Fakal category specialize in freeing hostages. No mission undertaken by Spets has been failed yet. The Spets commandos have acquired as part of their training a special ability to withstand any country and their weapons and to survive in different climates. Many famous missions have been undertaken and succeeded by these commands. In 1969, the KGB received information that the U.S. Army had moved their Super Cobra helicopters to a secret camp near Cambodia, 30 kilometers from Vietnam. Subsequently, 6 Spetsnaz commandos infiltrated the American base camp and bombed 10 transport helicopters and 3 Super Cobra helicopters. Also, Spetsnaz delivered one of the Super Cobra helicopters to Vietnam. 15 American Marines at the American base were killed and dozens wounded in the Spetsnaz attack. It took Spetsnaz commandos only 20 minutes to carry out this operation. The United States had no idea who had infiltrated the military camp that the United States had kept so secret under their noses and carried out such an attack. Years later, even the US knew it was a Russian attack based on information leaked from the KGB. Another most important of which is Operation Storm 333. Relations between Afghanistan and the Soviet Union worsened when the Afghan President Nur Muhammad, who had close ties to the Soviet Union, was removed from power and replaced by the anti-Soviet Hafizullah Amin. After Nur Muhammad was killed under mysterious circumstances, the Soviet Union reached an agreement with the Afghan leader, Babrak Karmal. Thus, on December 12, 1979, Spetsnaz forces arrived in Afghanistan. Spetsnaz, then part of the Soviet Union, stormed the Tajbek Palace and killed Hafizullah Amin and his son. This incident is called Operation Storm 333. This incident paved the way for the Soviet Union's 10-year war in Afghanistan. Spetsnaz was active in the Afghan War from 1979 to 1987. Spetsnaz forces are used not only for war. They are also used in missions like restoring peace and freeing captives. Spetsnaz have also worked with NATO to restore peace in post-war Bosnia in 1995. On October 23, 2002, when terrorists led by Chechen Islamist leader Mavsar Barayev stormed the busy Dubrovka theater in Moscow, resulting in the capture of 912 people, Spetsnaz led the rescue effort. Russia does not officially recognize that it has an army called Spetsnaz, but political observers point out that this section exists in the Russian army. No one else knows the names or details of the Spetsnaz troopers. Even in the military postal system there is no name or information about them. But experts point out that there are only some code numbers.